Two of my strongest character traits are impulsivity and optimism. It started when I was very young. I grew up in a house that had a fantastic backyard. It was filled with giant trees. There was this row of pine trees, almost 75 feet tall, and their branches grew out horizontally, almost like the rungs of a ladder. So naturally, as soon as my little body was big enough, I started to climb. One day, my friend Ann and I decided we were going to climb to the top. And we were almost there when I looked down. Wow. We were really high up. The ground started to spin, and I started to panic. Ann, very calmly and pragmatically, stated the facts. She said, "You got yourself up here. You can get yourself down." It's the same exact thing in reverse. She pointed out that I had to get down, otherwise she would be stuck up at the top of the tree. But it was the last one that clinched it. She reminded me that if I continued to freak out up there and needed to be rescued, my parents would never let me climb a tree again. No way was that happening. So slowly and carefully, I made my descent, and when my little feet landed on the ground, two feelings overcame me. Obviously relief, but the second was a thrill, even greater than the thrill I had felt climbing up. Accomplishing something that I almost couldn't do was a powerful feeling. I was hooked, and I have been accepting challenges from the epic to the mundane ever since. "I've got this" is one of my favorite sayings, mostly to myself. And it was this combination of impulsivity and optimism that led me to become an autism stepmom. Toward the end of his divorce, it was becoming clear that my now husband would likely be getting full custody of his two children. I was all in, without hesitation. I had been a teacher for almost 30 years. I had raised my own son and daughter. My empty nest felt more empty than liberating. And I welcomed the chance to mom again. My stepdaughter was 13, and my stepson was 17 when they came to live with us. And he has autism and epilepsy. The day my husband went back to work in the city, I had a little bit of that I might be too high up in the tree kind of a feeling. I suddenly became aware of everything I didn't know. My stepson is minimally verbal. How will I know what he wants to eat, to wear, to do? I had been trained in seizure protocol as a teacher, but I had never seen an epileptic seizure. But my optimism kicked in, and I knew we would get through this. I knew it would all work out, and it turns out I was right. But I need to pause here for a minute, because it often seems like there are other factors operating here beyond my fountain of optimism. Where my stepson is concerned, it's like he has a squadron of guardian angels paving the way for great things. We were able to get him enrolled in a fantastic life skills program in our high school. And the phenomenal people who worked with him were there for me too, guiding and supporting me every step of the way. He loved school, and we watched him blossom. The day he would age out loomed on the horizon, and we were very unprepared. Due to a series of care manager issues and COVID delays, we had no post-graduation plans. But about 5 months before graduation, we heard about the Nicholas Center. He continues to thrive, and we have found a community of autism families that guides and supports us. We are deeply grateful. Where my stepson was concerned, we had this. But where his sister was concerned, we didn't. She barely spoke to us or anyone, preferring to wear headphones to block out the world. She mostly stayed up in her room And when she did come downstairs, it was like an angry ghost moving through the house. School was no better. She's really intelligent, but she floundered academically, and she had little interest in her classmates. Dropping her off at school every morning was heartbreaking. Her misery was profoundly obvious. If a parent is only as happy as their least happy child, this was a very dark time. My optimism had failed me. But how? As a teacher, I had the skills to win over even the most reluctant students. Not her. I sought help everywhere. I spoke to therapists and doctors. I read books and articles. I joined parent support groups. Time and time again, we were told, just be patient. She'll come around eventually. Not great news for an impulsive person. And along the way, she was misdiagnosed with ADHD and put on medication that made her feel even worse. I felt like I was hanging on at the top of a tall tree with no hope of getting down. The only time she was happy was in the evenings. She would get on her computer and connect with her online friends. As a well-informed mom, I was horrified. Who was she speaking to? Every alarm was ringing in my head, but how could I deny her this? She came to life, laughing and talking and playing video games. She became a different person. I tried everything I could to get that person to come into her daily life, to bring joy into her life. We went to concerts. I took her thrifting. I literally said yes to almost anything she asked, but those were just brief, fleeting moments of happiness. She liked to take long car rides, so I drove all over. And one day, during one of those car rides, she said, "I think I'm on the autism spectrum." I quickly dismissed this, explaining she had been screened when she was little, and the doctor had decided that her flapping and other autism symptoms were just imitations of her older brother's symptoms. We were barely speaking at this point, so she didn't argue, but a few weeks later, she mentioned it again and again, and then she started quoting statistics about the percentages of girls on the autism spectrum that get misdiagnosed. She persisted. Her therapist reached out to us and said, "I think you should go ahead and get her screened." At this point, she's decided she has autism. So if she is diagnosed, she's ready, and if not, we can put this to rest. So we agreed. You know, when you take out the string of Christmas lights, it's not working, and you have to go bulb by bulb to try and figure out which one is the culprit, and finally you do, and the whole string lights up. That's what my stepdaughter's autism diagnosis was, the missing piece. I can't say that things changed overnight, but I will tell you that today, my stepdaughter is a different person. Having an explanation for why she felt like a square peg in a round world was a huge relief. I can't say she learned to love school, but she tolerated it, and she graduated with a Regents diploma. More importantly, she gained social confidence and started to experience joy. No longer shut down, today, our car rides are filled with conversation as she shares what's going on in her beautiful, creative mind. We've got this. Now, I'd just like to take the last few moments I have here to urge parents who might be on the fence about having their daughter screened for autism to consider doing it. The depression and anxiety that came from having no good reason for the fact that the world she was living in was completely uncomfortable was critically demoralizing. My stepdaughter's autism diagnosis unburdened her in ways I never could have imagined. Today, she has a job. that would never have been possible prior. She has to interact with new people every day. And I'm sure social anxiety is still a factor, but understanding it has helped her overcome it. My stepdaughter's autism diagnosis helped her understand herself and gain the confidence and resilience to strategize her way through situations instead of having them overwhelm her. And I am happy to report that these days she will impulsively join me on silly adventures, and she shines with optimism. I'm really glad those have become character traits for her too. Thank you.